Imagine a show where a group of friends set out to sea with nothing but a dream and a little boat. No army, no government backing them. Just a crew of misfits chasing something most people would call impossible. That's what One Piece has been so far. But season 3 is where everything changes. Because up until now, the story has been about discovery, about finding new places, meeting new people, figuring out who these characters are, and that's been wonderful. But season 3 isn't an adventure story anymore. It's a war story. And if Netflix handles it the way it deserves to be handled, this won't just be good television. It will be some of the most emotionally powerful storytelling we've seen in a long time. Let me walk you through what I think is coming and why it matters. A kingdom that's already broken. The story picks up in a place called Alabasta, and right away something feels wrong. This isn't a paradise, it's a desert kingdom. Beautiful in its own way, ancient and proud, but clearly suffering. The land is cracked and dry, the streets are tense. People who used to be neighbors are now looking at each other like enemies. There's a rebellion building and nobody seems to know how to stop it. Now here's the thing that makes Alabasta so interesting from a storytelling perspective. There's a princess traveling with our crew. Her name is Vivi and this is her home. She's been away from it for a while, trying to find a way to save it from the outside, and now she's back. But instead of relief, what she feels is dread, because the country she left is not the country she's come back to. For viewers who've never seen a single episode of One Piece before, here's what you need to understand. Vivi is not a warrior. She's not the strongest person in the room. What she has is love for her people. A deep, genuine love, and the desperate hope that she can still fix things before it's too late. That's what makes her so compelling to watch, because the audience can feel how much is at stake for her personally, and when she looks at Alabasta and sees how far it's fallen, you feel it too. The man behind it all, here's where the season really starts to get interesting. On the surface, what's happening in Alabasta looks simple. The royal government versus the rebels. Two sides, a civil war. We've seen stories like that before, but then the layers start to peel back. Because this war didn't just happen, it was built. Every rumor that spread through the kingdom, every shortage of resources that pushed people toward anger, every moment that made the rebels distrust their own king. All of it was carefully engineered by one man. His name is Crocodile, and he might be one of the most terrifying villains in the entire show. Not because he's loud or unpredictable, but because of the exact opposite. He is patient, he is calm, he had been playing a long game for years, quietly pulling strings from the shadows, and by the time anyone realizes what's happening, it's almost too late. Think about the kind of villain who doesn't need to raise his voice. The kind who sits in a chair while chaos unfolds around him and simply watches. Because it's all going according to plan. That's Crocodile. He doesn't just want power, he wants a kingdom. And he's been taking it apart from the inside piece by piece until the moment comes when he can walk in and take what's left. What makes him so unsettling as a character is that he's not wrong about the world. He understands how people work, how fear spreads, how trust breaks down, how a population can be turned against itself with the right pressure applied in the right places. He's a strategist. And strategies, unlike raw strength, are very hard to fight. The first loss. Now let's talk about our main character, Luffy. If you don't know Luffy, here's the short version. He's the captain of this crew. He has the ability to stretch his body like rubber. It's a superpower he got from eating a mysterious fruit. And he is at his core the most stubbornly optimistic person you will ever meet. He doesn't back down, he doesn't overthink, he sees a problem and he goes at it head first with everything he has. That approach has worked beautifully so far. It does not work on Crocodile. When Luffy finally comes face to face with him, and you can feel this scene coming from a mile away. The unstoppable force about to meet something it can't move. The result is unlike anything we've seen in the show before. Luffy attacks hard, fearlessly, the way he always does. And Crocodile doesn't even really try to stop him. He just lets Luffy fall into him. And Luffy's hands go right through because Crocodile can dissolve into sand. He can become untouchable, literally. And in that moment, Luffy realizes he has no idea how to win this fight. He loses. Not barely, not heroically. He just loses. And he's left there alone while Crocodile walks away without a word. Because to Crocodile, this wasn't even a real fight. Luffy wasn't a threat. He was a distraction. That moment matters so much because this show has taught us to trust Luffy. We've watched him fail and recover, get hurt and push through, but this is different. This is a loss that shakes something fundamental because it tells Luffy and tells us that heart and courage and rubber fists are not always enough. Sometimes the world has a kind of power that doesn't care how hard you try. The war nobody can stop while Luffy is recovering from that defeat. everything else falls apart at once, the rebellion reaches its peak. The capital city is on the edge of total collapse, and Vivi, who has been running on hope this whole time, finally hits the moment where she has to face the truth. Even if she stands up in front of every single person in that kingdom and tells them the truth, tells them who is really behind all of this, they won't listen. Because Crocodile has done his job too well. The damage is already done. The distrust is already there. And truth, when people are angry and scared enough, stops being something they want to hear. That is perhaps the most heartbreaking part of this whole arc, because Vivi's weapon was always the truth. She believed that if people just knew what was really happening, they would stop. They would choose peace. And watching that belief come up against the wall of a manufactured war, it's devastating. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew, Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Usopp, all of them are scattered across the kingdom, each fighting their own battles. These aren't random enemies. These are agents who work for Crocodile, each one specifically designed to be a nightmare for whoever they're facing. Every fight is intense. Every fight costs something. But unlike the adventures before, nobody is fighting for treasure here. Nobody is fighting to prove themselves. They're fighting because if they stop, a country dies. Getting back up, and then Luffy comes back. He always comes back. That's who he is. But this time something is different in the way he carries himself. Not darker exactly, more grounded. Like he's had to sit with the reality of losing and figure out what it actually means. Because fighting Crocodile isn't about hitting harder. It isn't about being stronger. You can't punch your way through sand. You have to want it in a way that goes beyond tactics and strategy. A way that Crocodile, for all his brilliance, genuinely cannot calculate for. The final fight is not the most technically impressive thing you'll see. It's not a dazzling display of superpowers. What it is a battle of wills. Crocodile has spent years building a world exactly how he wants it. He knows how people think. He knows how they break. What he doesn't know, what he has never understood, is what it looks like when someone refuses to fit into any pattern he's prepared for. Luffy wins, not because he's the strongest, because he's free in a way Crocodile has never been. The goodbye, and then after all of it, after the war ends and the truth comes out and Alabasta has a chance to breathe again, comes the scene that will probably hit the hardest. Vivi has to say goodbye. She wants to stay with the crew. You can feel it. These people became her family somewhere along the way, and walking away from them is one of the hardest things she's ever had to do. But her country needs her. Her people need her. She is a princess, and that has never meant less than it does in this moment. Because she's not staying out of duty. She's staying out of love. The way she says goodbye doesn't need to be dramatic. The weight of it is already there. And just when the emotion of that moment settles, a new figure appears on the horizon. Quiet, watching. Someone who has seen everything that just happened and who has her own reasons for paying attention. Her name is Nico Robin, and she changes everything. Season 3 of One Piece Live Action isn't just bigger than what came before, it's deeper. It asks harder questions. About power, about truth, about what you do when doing the right thing isn't enough. And if Netflix gets it right, it won't just be the best season of the show. It will be the moment One Piece becomes something you never forget.